Hello and how are you, my friends? Thank you very much for joining me for the latest episode of Ups and Downs. I am your host, Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture. Very quickly in now, just 1 second before we start, is I have to say a very quick thank you to our sponsor this week, the most wonderful Surfshark. Now what they have done is they have given us the ability to continue this series by their wonderful VPN services. Thank you so much. Yous are bleeding deadly. They are so awesome, in fact, that they have given a promo code. If you go to surfshark.com/whatculture, you will get 83% off your purchase, and you get a further 3 months free. Now that's a pretty good deal, if you ask me. And of course you are asking me because you're here on my video, because you're awesome. Awesome, I tell you. Surfshark, thank you so much for everything that you've done. Passing on the good news. Now let's get straight to the video. You know how this is going to work. We're going to go through the episode, give everything we like an up and everything that we didn't like a down. This is the Ups and Downs for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 9, Rubicon. Now, I'm actually going to give a nice classical up for the name of the episode, Rubicon. Now, what that is a reference to is in ancient Rome, it is the crossing of the Rubicon by Julius Caesar. Basically, what it means is it's passing the point of no return, which is effectively the theme for the whole episode. Book's actions, Tarka's actions, and indeed Burnham's actions all definitely relate to this title going back through everything. Now, I do think that this episode, if it hadn't already, we really have hit some tipping points now in the season. There are directions which the show needs to go in from this point. This is a real I think pivot episode for that, and so there's really no better title that you could have given the show, because I think by the end of this episode, there are relationships that will not be mended again. There are decisions that can't be unmade. It was a bit of a high stakes episode there for a bit. So if I go into my second up, I just want to go real quick. Burnham and Vance. When I saw them together in season 3, I never saw a good particular working relationship going. And yet by this point of season 4, when Vance says that he managed to convince President Relic that Burnham is the only one who could lead the mission because she'd never let him down, you kind of have to agree with him in that respect. Not that I'm trying not to agree with him, but it kind of makes you look back at all of the actions that have been undertook as part of their double team, their love, hate, all the rest of it. And yeah, I get it. It doesn't seem like a forced relationship in any way. When Vance says, yeah, like, you're going to lead this mission, Burnham, there's no two ways about it. Now, I do stand by exactly what I said in last week's Ups and Downs. The mission itself, little bit pointless. They could have just arrested Book and Tarka last week. So I actually have not changed my opinion from last week now about that one. But, okay, the mission's happening, so yes, Burnham is the only one who could lead it. I absolutely agree with that. And I also agree with Vance's decision to send along an observer. Haven't done this in a while. Up. Rachel and Cheryl returns as Commander Nan. This is one of the funny things. She probably gets more to do in this episode than she did in the entirety of seasons 2 and 3 in Discovery. Well, definitely more than 3 in Star Trek Discovery. And I didn't realize how much I missed her, because like that, it was usually she kind of ran the risk of, sound bites a little bit earlier on in the show, whereas she is a very powerfully commanding character in this episode. We get to see a little bit more of her. She's upgraded her breathers, and she is able to. It's a little bit sad at the start. She's asked, oh, did you get back to Barzan? Did you find your family? She's like, yeah, next question. I was like, oh dear, okay, right, loud and clear. While she's there, while she's serving as, Vance by proxy, there is a maturity that has happened since her introduction in season 2 to now. And you can clearly see that as the character, she's seen something, she's learned, she's grown. And that is fantastic to see that. When you stick with a show like we have done, it's fantastic to see growth. Sometimes, I mean, it must be fairly said, when you watch it week to week, you can be frustrated by your characters. I've mentioned previously how I've been frustrated with Book this season, and it's because we're seeing all of these steps, these missteps, these side steps, and sometimes you just kind of wish, just get me to the end. And that's kind of what we've got with Nan. We didn't see the struggles that went on between her role on the Seed Vault and her returning to Discovery in this episode. Now, I will never actually advocate, I don't want to see that story. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you can see that just because we didn't see the story didn't mean it didn't happen. And that's written all over her face in this episode. So, from me, Rachel and Cheryl, massive up for this episode. Very, very sorely missed, and I would be very sad, how many times can I say the word very, if this is the last we see of her. I really want her to come back, whether it's in, a recurring, whether it's, she pops up every so often. Just gimme. First down of the episode is something that by no means is unique to this episode, but it did seem to be particularly prevalent here, and it's that of, how long will this take? It will take X time because of science. Speed it up. For the love of God, it happens twice in this episode. So first is when Book and Tarka are speaking, and Tarka says, all right, listen, this device is going to take 5 to 6 hours because, it needs to charge, it needs to do this and everything. And Book's just like, do it faster. It's like, okay, that's how the scientific method works. Again, hardly unique to this episode, happens in Star Trek all the time. Case in point, later on, Stamets is trying to get his work done, and Burnham calls down and says, how long will this take? And he says, it will take X time. She's like, can you speed that up? And he goes, I will say this, I do like his response. Is there any acceptable answer I can give you other than yes? And she goes, no. And he goes, then yes. It doesn't quite save it. It definitely, that made me smile quite a bit, but it's just, stop with this trope. Do it faster. I'm trying. Leave me alone. I'm trying. Go do your own science. Now he's slightly bigger down. And when I say a slightly bigger down, it's Nan probably should have taken over Discovery at one point. This criticism is not specifically leaning on Burnham here. It's actually on both Book and Burnham. And it's this little thing of firing a photon torpedo. He didn't mean to hurt us. Firing some phasers. Nah, it's just a scrape to say good morning. Full spread of quantum torpedoes. I bet that wasn't Book, I bet it was Tarka. Now, alright, in fairness, it was Tarka in the last one, but exactly how many shots are we going to take before we go, I think he's not actually playing with us. I think he might be trying to hurt us. And this became quite frustrating as the episode went on because, and I say this with all the love, feck all happens in this episode. There's a lot of crash bang wallop and it looks brilliant. Again, my God, the visuals on this show are just, but there's a lot of kind of standing around waiting for someone to hit the next button and waiting for someone to hit the next move. Enough happened that I'm not calling it filler, but the word was in my head. And then things like this, of this back and forth, and we'll have this chat and that chat. Grant, important. Don't want to blow Book out of the sky. Totally understand that, and I don't want that either. I am not ready for David Ajala to not be in this show. As the captain of a starship, I was beginning to go, I don't know if your actions here are actually to safeguard the ship, or if they're just because you don't want to hurt Book. Well, actually, I'm not even going to say that there is any kind of confusion there. It's purely the latter. And the problem being then, how far does this go? And how much damage does Discovery take before we're like, all right, listen. Nan probably should have stepped in. Now, obviously, the end of the episode, within reason, shows that, okay, Grant, she was sort of grand not to do that. Well, actually, no, not really. Because Tarka manages to fire Burnham hopping in the shuttle and going and having that nice face-to-face with Book through the window. I mean, yeah, I liked the scene. And at this point, I thought it was, she goes, listen, Nan, you're in charge while I'm off the ship. And it does make sense to me that she said to Nan, rather than Saru, that Nan should be in control, because this is Burnham's last ditch attempt to, look, if this doesn't work, fire the damn weapon. I think that breaking point should have come sooner, but I did like that exchange. Absolutely everyone. I mean, she could physically see him. You've got Book, as you could see it written off, like Book doesn't want to hurt anyone. That's his whole, it's incredibly single-minded drive of his, is that he doesn't want anyone else to get hurt. Now, I mean, it's because it's coming from a place of revenge. It's not coming from a place of altruism. But as he stands there and he and Burnham are looking at each other, you can see Tarka behind them in a top hat, twiddling his mustache, going, yeah, you have your little chat. I'm actually hitting in the firing code. You don't mind me. I'm just going to keep firing here. It's fine. And that was a bit like, you might get through to Book, but you were never going to get through to Tarka. That was never going to happen. And okay, we can argue that Burnham doesn't know Tarka as well as Book does, but we as an audience do. And we could see it coming a mile off. And that to me was like, this is pointless. I feel that they've included these moments because they want us to root for Book. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to root for Book. Because, again, crossing the Rubicon, how do we come back from some of these options? It is his ship, after all, that the weapon is fired from. We're going back to Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. As the captain of a starship, are you not responsible for the conduct of the crew under your command? There is something to be said for that. That was an overarching feeling. It was the whole episode. Obviously, I've consolidated it to one down here, but the whole episode, that was a real overarching feeling and worry for me this week. This is going to sound like, Sean, you literally just said, but, it's like, well, maybe Nan should have taken control, but down, observers observe. It's this whole, this is endemic we're going back to Ash Tyler here, and Section 31 Observer. It's just like, stop questioning the captain in front of the whole crew. Whisper in their ear. Now, I want to take a break from negativity for a second, and I want to go to a lovely positive up of this episode. And I mean, all of the Tarina and Saru shippers out there, I mean, we're here, we're getting it. She asks them out for dinner, and it's all very lovely altogether. And I nearly threw my mouse at the screen when Saru says to Culber, I think I might decline. I was like, come again? And Culber thankfully is able to say, you're being an idiot, because I was screaming that at the screen. And yes, he was being silly. He was, thinking, oh, we're too stressed and we can't do this and we can't do that. So good, it was coming from a place of worry, not a place if he doesn't have feelings for Tarina, because this is the couple I never saw coming. And absolutely love it. So it starts by Saru sends her a message when they're still back at Federation HQ, asking to help him meditate, and his mind is too busy. And she basically says, well, why don't we go for dinner? And he's like, oh, you. Yeah, by the end of the episode, this is what's on his mind. And I really quite like that because it's balancing the light with the dark. This is quite a heavy episode, but that's quite light. And I do like as well, actually, what I really liked is, you have that moment of Saru, Culber, Reese, and Bryce are all jumping on the shuttle to go over to Book's ship to basically, storm it. Culber obviously is there to de-escalate, as Saru says. He will be the counselor guy. So when, once again, this doesn't work, there's a moment where he's walking around the sick bay and he's switching the lights off, and Saru walks in, and basically Culber goes like, did you also have a day? And I just went, I feel you. I feel you, Hugh. But yes, sorry, in this scene, it just brings the lightness back again. And we do need that. You have to have that balance a little bit. And I think it manages it in this scene. And again, the lightness kind of, in some of the more conversations between Burnham and Nan as well. Saru and Tarina, Mr. and Mrs. President, 2023. Yeah, done. All right, you heard it here first. Now, I do have it down. The end of the episode, Discovery jumps away, sure, and Book's still sitting there, and they fired the weapon, and it's, Tarka needs to be taken in. and Book needs to be the one to do it. I'm giving it a down because of how much Tarka's been allowed away with by Book specifically. Book is reaching that point. I would say Book perhaps hasn't quite crossed the Rubicon yet, but if he allows any more action from Tarka, I mean, he is a co-conspirator. Nobody's questioning he's a co-conspirator, but his level of guilt, it's getting really close. Tarka's fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes at a Federation starship. If Burnham hadn't been in control, they would have had every right to respond in force. You know, Tarka fires the weapon and we find out, whoops, it's being powered from the other side of the wormhole, which I hummed and hawed about. Well, should you not have seen that coming? Well, we are talking about levels of power that have been never seen before, so no, I'll let them away with that one. But you can see the disappointment written all over Tarka's face, but again, he and Book are just sitting there. Book's like, dude, you booby-trapped my ship and tried to kill an entire shuttle crew. You know, oh, you can say I never saw this coming. You absolutely did. And then you fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes, and then you instigated what could be a horrifically negative first contact with Species 10C. If Book doesn't take Tarka in, it's, well, obviously we're going to have the issue of Tarka, but it's going to go to proper, like, I can't really deal with Book allowing this much to happen. We're on a knife's edge. We have a few more episodes to go, and it's left me worried. I have to say, it's left me worried about whether Book will continue on in the show at this point. Certainly going into season 5. We'll have to see where it is. And then the episode basically wraps up with, they get rid of the power source, and Species 10C are just like, huh, alright, Control Alt Delete, boom, new DMA is back. And there is this kind of a collective go, and the last line being, well, whether we wanted it or not, first contact has been initiated. So I reckon we're going to have a bit of a rush now to the finish coming from next week. It was a nice teaser to end the episode on, because I'm dying to see next week's episode now as well. Join me as we head to Cetacean Observations. Now, this week you'll see no pad for a specific reason. Is that I only have 2 this week. Not that many. One is when they talk about the gambit that they went through in Breen space. So that was nice. We remember the Breen, those dudes who have a thermal detonator as they're going to deliver the Wookiee to Jabba. I stand by it. I want to take a second. My second one is Omega. So, last week we discussed that the DMA is mining boronite in the Milky Way galaxy. Boronite is said to be, it is essential in the creation of the Omega molecule. Now, Star Trek Voyager, the Omega Directive, we get that excellent opening where all of the ship's screens go blank and they just have the Omega symbol. Then, through the information delivered by Captain Janeway and 7 of 9, we discover that Omega has been, basically it is the most powerful substance in all of established Trek lore. There have been creation myths that say the Omega molecule was responsible for the Big Bang, that Species 262 said that it lit up the sky, Species 263 said it was a drop of blood from their creator. Whatever it actually is, it's powerful. A string or a chain reaction of explosions with the Omega molecule could destroy subspace in an entire quadrant, making warp drive or subspace communications completely impossible. So, let's not set off Omega. Thanks a bunch. The Omega molecule was designed by Rob Bonchoon, and he based it around a Buckminster fullerene. He called it a buckyball, which basically looks like a football. On the outside, you've got your hexagonals, and then you've got your core in the middle. And if you see the power source at the middle of the DMA, really does look like that. We got a buckyball in the middle of a big cloud. Science. This is really, it's kind of another visual aid on top of the boronite, obviously name drop, visual aid that it is going to be Omega that we're dealing with. So who deals in Omega? The first biggest name in Star Trek is the Borg. For them, it was perfection, and it became the ultimate goal of power. 7 of 9 said that they had a policy of assimilated at any costs. Their original experiment sacrificed 29 cubes and something like 600,000 drones. So it does not shock anyone that it could be the Borg behind this, and also what the 32nd century Borg looked like. Now, as we move away from alpha canon, we could look at beta canon. So from this point, take it all with a pinch of salt. This could be nothing. And specifically, there's the Star Trek Destiny novels, which introduces the race of the CDR. Spoiler for Destiny, so look away if you don't want to hear. The CDR and the Borg do have quite a relationship. Now, they used Omega as a power source along with Boronite, and they certainly would have the technological ability to exist outside the galactic rim and create things like the DMA. It being beta canon, this could just be like saying, oh yeah, so did my great Aunt May, she did that too. Now, in games like Star Trek Online and Star Trek Armada and Star Trek Legacies, Omega exists in all of these as well. It's something like the Holy Grail or the Great MacGuffin of Star Trek. It is so powerful that when you come up against it, it's no, all hands on deck. It remains to be seen how they're going to handle it in Discovery. We will have to see, and of course we will as the show goes on. Now, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for listening to my little history lesson there about Omega, and thank you for joining us for all the ups and downs. If you think I missed anything in this episode, which I probably did, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I said. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, every time you subscribe, you are helping this channel to grow. It's already growing so quickly, and that is because of you. You can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick over on Twitter as well. I will, of course, be back next week with the next episode of Ups and Downs. In the meantime, you look after yourself, you live long and prosper, and if you see Tarka, punch him and take him into custody. Thanks very much.